Okay, so we've all gotten pretty used to chatting with AI, right? But what happens when the AI stops just talking and actually starts doing? Well, that's the world of AI agents. And believe me, it is a much bigger leap than you might think. We are moving from simple conversation to full-on autonomous action.
Think about it. You've probably asked a chatbot to answer a question for you, maybe draft an email. But what if it could do more? I mean, way more. What if it could actually perform the entire task for you, from the very beginning to the very end? That right there, that's the huge shift from a chatbot to an agent. So let's break this evolution down a little bit. And really, this isn't just some minor upgrade. We are literally witnessing a move from an AI that just responds with information to an AI that acts on its own to achieve a goal you give it.
Okay, check this out. This is where you can really see the difference. A chatbot, it can understand what you're saying. A copilot, like GitHub's, it can suggest the next logical step. But an agent is playing a whole different ballgame. It can plan out complex, multi-step sequences, it can self-correct when it hits a snag, and it can operate completely on its own until the job is done.
It all really boils down to this. We're shifting from a tool you ask for answers to a partner you can actually delegate entire workflows to. It's the difference between asking, hey, what's the capital of Nebraska? And saying, hey, plan and book my entire business trip to Nebraska for next week. See the difference?
So what's the best way to really get your head around what an agent is? Well, if a chatbot is like a helpful librarian you go to with questions, then an AI agent is something so much more powerful. You should think of it as your first AI employee.
All right, here's the more, textbook definition. The key phrases you really got to focus on are autonomously pursue a goal, and this is the big one, without human instruction at every step. That is the game changer right there. You don't have to micromanage it. You just give it an objective, and it figures out how to get there all by itself.
In this analogy, it just hits the nail on the head. You ask a librarian a question. You work with a research assistant. But a junior employee, you give him a goal. Something like, find me 40 new customer leads, and you trust them to figure out the how. That's the agent model.
But how does an agent actually, think its way through a problem like that? It seems really complex. But under the hood, it's actually running a really simple but incredibly powerful loop over and over and over again.
So, this is it. The core loop every single agent runs on. First, it perceives the world around it, the current situation. Then, it plans what to do next. It acts, it executes a step, and then, and this is so crucial, it reflects on the result to see if it's getting closer to its goal. It just keeps spinning through that perceive, plan, act, reflect cycle until the task is complete.
So let's make this real. Imagine you tell it, find me the cheapest flight to Tokyo. First, it perceives the goal. Simple enough. Then it plans its attack. Okay, I'm going to search Kayak, Expedia, and Google Flights. Then it acts. It actually goes out and queries those sites. Finally, it reflects, comparing all the prices it found to nail down the absolute best deal for you. It's a simple loop, but it's incredibly powerful.
Now, this level of autonomy, it brings up the biggest challenge of all, and it's not a technical one. Nope, it's a human one. Trust. I want you to think about one number, 700. That's the number of full-time human agents whose entire workload is now being handled by a single AI. The fintech company Klarna rolled it out for customer service, and it's already handling 2/3 of all their customer chats.
I mean, that scale is just mind-boggling. And it forces us to ask a really, really important question. When we hand over that much power, how do we make sure we can still trust these things? How do we stay in the driver's seat?
So how do we do it? Well, the answer is all about building really smart, strong guardrails. Developers are designing these systems with critical safety features built right in. Things like requiring a human's approval before it spends any money, setting hard budget caps, and probably the most important of all, giving the user a big red kill switch to stop everything instantly. The principle is crystal clear. A human being has to always have the final say. And look, this isn't some sci-fi thing we're talking about for the future. Agents are out there right now in the wild. So let's take a look at some real-world examples to see the successes, the failures, and the really crucial lessons we're already learning.
We're already seeing a really clear pattern emerge. You have big successes like Klarna, which works because its goal, customer service, is super well defined. Then you've got promising, specialized tools like Devin for coding. And then you see hardware-based agents like the Rabbit R1 really struggling, which is teaching us that these things have to be rock-solid reliable before people are going to change their habits for them.
So if there's one huge lesson we're learning from all these early attempts, it's this. You can't just give an agent some vague pie-in-the-sky goal like, make me successful, and just let it run wild. The agents that are actually working are the ones given very clear goals inside very clear boundaries. For AI agents, it turns out scope is everything.
And all of this, well, it leaves us with one final, really tricky question. As we start delegating more and more of our digital lives to these autonomous systems, what happens when they mess up? I mean, really mess up. If your agent books the wrong non-refundable flight or accidentally deletes a critical file, who's to blame? Is it you, the person who made the agent? We don't have the answers yet, but it's a question you and I are going to be dealing with, and probably sooner than we think.